Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Students' Union in collaboration with the Debating Society's Presidential Hustings event. Now, we must, of course, warn you that this event is being live streamed and recorded, so please, if you could keep profanities to a minimum. I'm briefly going to go through the format for today. Firstly, I'm your host, Daria. I'm the Vice President of the Debating Society, and I will be on the panel with the President of the Debating Society, James Arrowsmith. The format for today's debate. Firstly, I will introduce all four lovely candidates behind me. We'll then go into a 5 to 10 minute speech from each of the candidates for them to outline why you should vote for them. We'll then go on to a brief session from me and James going through their manifestos and quizzing them on points that they were not clear on, or quizzing them on points that we'd like them to be more specific about. We'll then open up to the floor. There'll be a Q&A. There'll be a mic floating about for you to ask the candidates questions of your own before we go to a 1 to 2 minute closing statement from each panelist. So now, if I introduce each of the panelists today, on my immediate left is a second-year biomedical science student and the current chair of the Democratic Procedures Committee, Sam Marshall-Evans. On my immediate right, activist and third-year sociology student, Ned Tilbrook.
Thank you. Thanks.
On my far right, second-year aerospace engineering student and president of Society of the Year, Islamic Society, Zain Chowdhury. And on my far left, master's law student all the way from Egypt, the former French A campus officer and incumbent Students' Union president, Ahmed Amara. So without further ado, we'd like to invite our first speaker, Sam, to the podium.
I'm Sam. I'm a second-year biomedical science student. I'm currently a member of the Democratic Procedures Committee, and this is the second time I've run for the office of SU President. So what is it that I believe qualifies me to be President? Well, I've been a member of the Democratic Procedures Committee for 2 years, working with students at student council meetings, AGMs, or SUMs as they're now called, and on an individual basis to hold SU officers to account and make sure the SU is more accessible, transparent, and democratic. As part of this, I've helped the SU to entirely change the way it's run to an online model, making it more accessible to students through the Student Ideas section, something that I continue to work on. I've also successfully campaigned for Student Ideas. I worked single-handedly to get the idea of turning part of the old SU into a sleep pod bay passed, something which I'm still working on to ensure that it does get done, and I would now like to expand to all campuses to give every student the equal opportunity to catch a few Z's between lectures. I'm also working on the Bristol Cut the Rent UE campaign to pressure letting agencies and landlords to rent fairly, cut agency fees and sign the Ethical Lettings Charter, something that I will continue fighting for as President. I recently attended the Big Housing Conversation, a meeting at City Hall for activist groups fighting for a fairer accommodation situation across Bristol, with the hope of working together with other groups to achieve common goals, something that I hope to carry through into the presidency. So my main three policies are rebuilding the SU accommodation services to create a student-run lettings agency that can compete with Bristol's private letting agencies. I would promote the Ethical Lettings Charter through this and work together with Bristol SU Lettings, Acorn and other activist groups to bring an end to agency fees, poor quality accommodation and create a better dialogue between landlords and tenants. I'd also like to explore the possibility of setting up a Futures Award recognition for working with the new accommodation services, as well as training with Bristol City Council for student accommodation inspectors, something that I've already been talking to the council about. My second policy is ensuring the sleep pod bays are created and expanding the idea to all campuses to give every student the opportunity to rest without travelling to and from their homes, something that I think we all know can be very difficult in Bristol at certain times of the day. These sleep pod bays could be designed to cater for multiple student needs, such as reading and general relaxation spaces, in addition to the pod bays. My third policy is improving campus unity and parity. I want to work on improving and equalising the facilities and services for students and staff on every campus, and ensure that SU campaigns and activities reflect the views of every student, not just those from certain campuses. As part of this, I'd like to work with UCU to achieve shared goals of UE students and teaching staff, such as more intuitive course and module reviews. I'd also like to work very closely with the other VPs and officers to help them achieve their goals, as I know from experience it's much quicker and easier to get something done if you work together, especially if you do have shared goals. Today I've been speaking to students at Bower Ashton and Glenside about the issues they face regarding lack of facilities and services. I discovered that they are lacking basic facilities that we take for granted at French Day, such as access to shops at later hours and adequate choice of food and drinks. Even something as simple as being able to buy bread and milk on campus for those who live there. I want to eradicate this disparity. If I'm elected, I will try to fulfill these policies, maintain the policies that have been enacted that are having a positive effect on student life, and fight for any new ones in any way that I can. I've tried my best to make a difference to the lives of students around me, but I know I can do more with the resources of the SU presidency behind me. Thank you.
Second to the mic, Ned.
Thanks. So I wanted to start tonight by telling you a little story really quickly about the first time I ever actually saw UE. The first time I ever laid eyes on the University of the West of England was when I moved in here on French A campus 2.5 years ago now. In Quantock Court, it was flat 412, room 2, and I know one of my old flatmates is actually here with us tonight. And so I really came to UE knowing very little about it. But over my time here, I've come to really believe in our university and in our dynamic and diverse student body and what it can achieve. And that's why I believe in our students' union. And I believe that a strong, transparent and open student union has the ability and moral authority to hold our university to the same high standards. And if you've read my manifesto, you'll know that I put transparency right at the heart of it. I promise to write a meeting on every single report on every meeting I have with the university, so that people know exactly what's being said and done in their name. And I believe transparency is not important for its own sake, although I do believe that. I believe as well that it's important to get people more involved and invested in what the SU is doing. I believe that people knowing what the SU is doing on their behalf can get them more engaged. You know, the SU is more than just elections once a year in a bar, although those things are very important as well. It's the organisation that's designed to represent our views to the university. I've also promised to, on this note, to visit every campus at least once a month. That includes the ones not in Bristol, in Gloucester as well. And that once a month is an absolute minimum. I'll be aiming to do more. And that's so that I can make sure that I'm representing everyone to the absolute best of my ability. You know, the job of president here is a really tough one. There's 27,000 students here, and you have to represent them all to the university. And I want to make sure I'm doing absolutely everything I can to do that. Now, we're at a really critical moment in higher education, where getting a degree in this country could become even more expensive still. The current HE bill, if passed in the form it was in the Commons, could see universities allowed to increase tuition fees by £250 every year. So, on that note, I have made a promise to oppose, as a point of principle, any proposed fee and hall rent increases that the university offers. Now, the SU president doesn't have direct control over that, and I'm not going to make promises that I can't guarantee that I can keep. But I will not stop fighting for you and fighting to keep higher education accessible and affordable for all, as I truly believe it should be. I'm also a really passionate believer in our responsibility to reduce our negative impact on the environment, and I promise to lobby for food waste, compost bins around campus, only outdoors obviously. And as we've already got these in halls, I don't see regular collection as being a problem. And I'd also like to see the university use recyclable coffee cups in all its outlets. I know I personally always feel really bad when we have to put them in the landfill bin. And I believe I'm the right person to implement this. I've had a lot of experience with universities around the world. Back in 2013, I was an assistant to the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Kurdistan, Hawler. And I worked there during a really difficult and interesting time when the university was going through a lot of changes. And it was a really challenging job. But one of the things I did there that I'm really proud of is that I designed, distributed, collected and analysed a survey asking students how they felt about the university and what it was doing at that critical moment. And I presented what happened to the Vice-Chancellor. And so I'm already really used to engaging with students and talking to them about how they feel, what they think is going right and what they think is going wrong. And I've really not stopped doing that. Last year, I was on exchange at one of our wonderful partner institutions, Virginia Commonwealth University. It's a fantastic opportunity that you gave me that I'm really grateful for. And while I was there, I lobbied, I was part of a successful campaign spearheaded to have our university join the Worker Rights Consortium. Now, in the US, universities sell a lot of branded clothing. We have a bit here, but it's a really big business there. And unfortunately, a lot of the suppliers universities use have really poor records on sweatshops and workers' rights. So what the WRC, the organisation we asked them to join, does is independently monitor factories to ensure that basic workers' rights and human rights are being met. And it was a really tough campaign. There were moments when I really thought we wouldn't win, but we did. We got what we asked for. And we did it by both engaging with students and gathering their support, but also by having an open, transparent and honest dialogue with the university about what we wanted and why. And so I feel like I've already been able to implement these values that I'm talking about. What I've got, I believe, are real policies that are really genuinely achievable. And that's why I'm here tonight to ask for your vote. I'm asking you to let me carry on for a year, campaigning for you and for a stronger SU. Thank you.
And now our third speaker, Zain Chowdhury.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming today, first of all, on behalf of everyone here. I'm glad that you guys came, so it's very good on your behalf and on our behalf as well. So, as Derek was saying, my name is Zen. I'm also a candidate, obviously, running for the SU presidency. And I'm campaigning for 4 very vital things. Of course, it's not just including these things. More things come in along the way. So I'm going to jump straight in, and one of them includes a bigger one zone. So why do we need a bigger one zone? If you take into consideration how busy one zone gets on a Tuesday and Thursday lunchtime, it gets absolutely packed to the brink where you can barely find seats. And uni is accepting more students every year as compared to previous years. So the number of students are increasing on campus as the years go on. And eventually one zone, if not already, in my opinion, already it is too small. If not already, in the future, it's going to get too small. So we have 2 options on how we can extend it. We can either extend it out towards the patio into the old SU building, which I believe there's nothing else going on in there. So it's about utilizing some space. And it's about also extending it, if you can, up above the one zone, which has got nothing there already. So it's not like there's no space for it to happen. The second one is relaxation room. This is an inspiration I took from Cardiff University. So Cardiff University uses this very effectively, and it's called a relaxation room at their uni, and many other unis across the UK also have this. And this is basically, the best way I like to describe it is if you take, for example, a studio flat, and a studio flat, an extended version of it, minus the bed. But Sam, he has a very good point about sleeping pods. So if we can work together on that, if I'm elected, we can also include some sleeping pods in there, and that's a very good way of collaborating with other candidates. And this is also challenging mental health as well. So this is something that's permanent. It's not something that's temporary, where it comes and goes. Extension of one zone and a relaxation room, these are permanent things we want to build on campus. So these are very effective because this is benefiting students for the rest of UWE's time. And hopefully people will build on it as well. So better representation. I'm also the current president of the Society of the Year, which is the Islamic Society, for which I was the vice president of last year. And we are one of the most actively engaged societies in the uni, where we're always, month in, month out, week in, week out, engaging with students like yourselves, whether it's on Frenchy, on Glenside, and other campuses. But we mainly focus on Frenchy because that's just where we're based. So that, in hence, makes me one of the most active members in the uni, one of the most active students on campus. So that's not something small. And I've also been nominated for President of the Year from FOSIS, which is the higher representing group of ISOCs. For example, like how SU is for students. That's the same concept for FOSIS and ISOCs. But the best way I like to describe them is they're basically the FIFA for football minus the corruption part. So keep that in mind. I sat recently on a student council where I was engaging with discussions with issues that you guys are posting on the Student Ideas website. So this is something we want to keep pushing because it's a very, very good idea. So the final point is better facilities for faith and leisure-based activities. So since I come from a faith background, since I was in charge of an ISOC, a faith society, we want to build something that can encompass all the faiths in the uni, representing everyone, whichever faith you're from. So you might know, you might not know that in the future, at some point, the oxygen, which is something we use quite heavily and weekly, is going to be knocked down. So Ian and I are already in discussions as ISOC president, as Ian as the university chaplain, about building a new faith hub for all the faith societies in the uni. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, that's something for you as well. And I would just like to finally conclude on one point, that I stand for three things, and these three things are very vital for me. They're very important to everyone on campus, and that is unity, diversity, and progression. We don't want to be kept left behind. We don't want temporary things. We want to unite together, whoever you are, whichever background you're from, I'm here to represent you. Diversity from every sort of ethnicity. Doesn't matter which background, which country you're from. This SU needs to be something that's representative of everyone, of every character, of every personality. And this is something I strive for. And being from Scotland, you would understand some Scottish politics. That we love politics. We love to engage. We love to go out and talk. So I'm one of these people, and I hope that has been convincing for you to vote for me. Thank you.
And last but not least, incumbent Students' Union President, Ahmed.
Oh, hello everyone. Probably it's not the first time you see me speaking, so I hope by now you have got used to my accent. It's not any strong anymore for you. So my name is Ahmed, and as you might know, I'm a law student, so shout out to any FBL students here. I'm an international student, as you know, and I come from Egypt. I came to UWI in 2015, and in my second month in this university, I ran for SU president. I didn't win in the first time, but I didn't give up, and I ran again for part-time position, French campus officer, in October 2015, which I won. And although it's a part-time job, I have put a lot of effort in this position to make the most of the experience and to benefit every student studying at UWI and French campus. Later on, I ran for SU president in March 2016, where I won the elections, not only by certain voters, but the whole university from different backgrounds, and all the students voted, not as high votes as I would like to see, but I'm hoping this year to be even better. Since I started my post in July 2016, I had very clear target is engagement with the students. And I said that I want to build this engagement with every society and every sport club and every student, whether they are part of societies or student reps or clubs or societies in general. So I have tried my best to at least visit every society as much as I can and attend their events for representation. You cannot represent someone if you don't know what they want, and you cannot represent people if you don't attend their events. So I always say that engagement is not just only by being out there, but speaking to people, having this engagement with the students and making sure that they understand what you are here for and you understand what they need. I tried my best this year to build engagement with students on other campuses, Glenside and City Campus as well in Bristol. I have been to every campus at least once or twice a week to build this engagement and represent every student. I have worked hard this year for other campuses, for Glenside to extend the opening hours and get the students to have more time on their Students' Union at Glenside. I have tried as much as I can for Bowr Ashton to get the students to know that we are here for them. All the students said that in City Campus, they feel isolated from what's going on at French A. This year, it hasn't only been French A, it has been all the university and all campuses. I promised last year certain things. I promised I would work on buses. Buses are not great, but if you were here last year, you will know that there is big improvement from last year. Also, I promised to have the puppy petting day. And it's not just about having some puppies and having fun with puppies, but it has been proven scientifically that they help with the stress. Not the only way you can help with stress, but it's a good way. Also, we have raised a lot of money for Minded Charity to support people experiencing mental health issues. And I said in my manifesto, I will try my best to have better support for mental health. Study spaces. If you were here last year, you will see that we had less study spaces last year. I have been lobbying for more. And as you know, by the time the new FBL will be open, I'm lobbying for have more study spaces in the old FBL and Red Bar, the old SU bar, if you know about it. Also, facilities on campus or on campuses have been improved. Microwaves in one zone, I love it for extra microwave in one zone to make life easier for students and get inside as well. And also, about Ashton, we have tried as much as we can to make things better there, especially the studios about Ashton, and to make them open till later hours. So this will be starting from September. It's not just about words or things you promise. It's all about what you do and how you make them happen. I know very well how to make what I say happen, and I try my best. And if there is something I said and didn't happen, it's not because I didn't work, but I tried my best. But things take time in this university. Diversity is not just a word we say. It's something we work for and work towards. You can see in my campaign team, it's a diverse team from all backgrounds. All the students are represented in my campaign team, not only one group or two groups. I'm representing all the university as much as I can. I'm trying to get more students on my campaign team to be representative for everyone. All the societies, or most of the societies, can tell I have been to their events. Not just because I'm going there to have some good time, but I want to know what the people want. This year, I'm promising things, and I'm confident that I can make them happen, because I know how to make things happen. I want to have your lecture materials released earlier than what they are now. It doesn't make sense. You get your lecture materials last minute. You have to get it well in advance to have the time to prepare. Also, I want to make sure that we have better funding for mental health. Societies and sports need to have better funding as well. I'm here today not just to speak about my manifesto and my policies, but I'm here today to say I've been representing you for the whole year. I tried my best and my hardest. And I promise, if re-elected, it will not stop there. I'll try more than what I have tried this year, because I got the experience to make me know what are the issues we are facing and how I can start straight to the point. I will not be spending the first few months learning, but I will be starting my projects from now if re-elected. Any other candidate will start from July. Me, I'll be starting from the following day of my results, hopefully re-elections. My time in office hasn't been easy. It has been challenging. But also, I got to learn a lot of things that I believe will give me the knowledge than any other candidate. It's really important that you vote and you choose who you want to represent you. Representation is not just a word. We put it in a manifesto. It's what you have done and what you are doing. Before being president, I would like to say I was engaged with most of the societies and the students. It's not just all of a sudden I came up and they said I want to be a president. I have been working throughout my time in UB to make this happen. People who voted for me last year, they didn't vote for the posters or the sweets. They voted for the person who they have seen around all the time. The person who have been there in most of the events, making sure that everything is working fine. When I go out, I'm not going out to have fun a night out. I'm going there to see how things are going and what's missing, how we can improve things. Making the extra mile to reach our people, making them feel welcome, included in the university and the community, representing the voice of students, top levels. I got the Vice Chancellor to be in a meeting with the Chief Exec of the bus company. This meeting is happening tomorrow, based on the bus survey I have done this year, towards improving the bus service. You can know more about my manifesto through reading the manifesto, but I want to say thank you for being here and caring enough to know more about your candidates. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. We are going to go through your manifestos now briefly and ask you some questions. To kick off, one that relates to all of you. The empty space in the former Red Bar is an issue raised by many of you with different ideas, from sleeping pods to relaxation room to more study spaces. I was wondering which of you thinks your idea is the best and why? If we go with Sam first.
So, I've been going around, to Bower Ashton, to Glenside, to Frenchay, not just in the last week or so, but across the entire year, asking, what, is that all right? We're all good? Okay. Asking, is this sleep pod bay a good idea? Do you think, is this the kind of thing that you'd want? What kind of features would you want this to be? Would you want it to just be pods? Do you want sofas? Do you want a reading area? What kind of things would you like? I've got a really positive response from it. Like I was saying, I single-handedly pushed that through because I knew how important it was to students after talking to them. And so really I think the idea is really something that students would want, not just on French A campus, not in Red Bar and the old SU, but right across all campuses. Although I would like to just make the point that I have since learned that Red Bar and SU have already been designated by the university for another purpose. Don't know what it is at the moment. However, with the freeing up of E Block, D Block, it'd be more than capable of turning an entire floor into a sleep pod bay with designated areas for reading, for listening to chilled out music, in your headphones, just having a break, getting a power nap, whatever you need to do.
Yep. So you got a bit wrong. I didn't want that for the relaxation room. That's for extension of the one zone. Yeah. No, it's so. I don't want to just use that space in Red Bar. I want to use that patio. Outside the one zone as well. So why do we need this more than, for example, sleeping pods? I don't disagree that the sleeping pods is a good idea. I agree it's a good idea. I'm very welcome to that idea. But that space should be used for something that is going to be a problematic issue, if not now, then somewhere down the line in the future. So as I was saying before, there's more students coming on campus every year. So eventually, one zone, if not already, is going to be small to accommodate all those different people to eat, because that's the only cafeteria, meaning the main cafeteria in the whole campus, right? So the way to counter that idea of how we can use that space is that the most powerful idea for that space to be utilized by is to utilize it for the one zone. If it's not there, then at least somewhere. I mean, these are negotiations that can happen later down the line about how exactly it's going to be extended. But this is my own vision from my own mind about how I see it. So extending it down to the patio, into the Red Bar, that's more than enough space to accommodate more people. There's a huge amount of space that's there for people to use, and that can be utilized in the most effective way that can be beneficial to students, not just now or in the future, but many years after that. So that's my answer to that.
Yeah. So, sorry. Regarding Red Bar and the spaces at the moment, I've been in discussion with the university for a long time now about the usage of these spaces. I think study spaces is the biggest issue we have at the moment with the number of students we are having and the need of having more spaces. Not by taking off the library the books, by making spaces in other spaces. The old ABL and the Red Bar, I believe they are best to be used for study spaces. The need of students for a place to study is getting higher, and I don't see in the current spaces they are meeting the needs of our students. Not just the French A, but other campuses as well. We always speak about French A as if it's the only place in this university. We have other campuses. And this is why we need to be represented for all the students. It's not only about focusing on what matters to French A students, although it's the biggest campus, but other students pay exactly the same tuition fees. Especially with campus like City Campus, the amount of money they have to invest in their degree is a huge amount, especially with their degree show.
Okay, thank you. Ned?
Yeah, so this isn't something that I have addressed in the manifesto. I was also under the impression that the university is designated, and I'm not sure what for. I would be open to listening to what students have to say on this issue, and perhaps if the SU was given control of it, we could have some sort of poll on it. However, of the ideas that have been suggested today here, and I think they're all very valid ideas, just due to the practicality of it being in proximity to the one zone, and the noise that's generated, I don't see it as being suitable for study or a sleep pod area. Therefore, I think probably for that specific space, the best use would be to extend the dining area. So I have to agree with Zain on this one.
Right, thank you. Ned, in your speech you mentioned opposing the HE bill.
Yes.
Could we have a lot of sort of a step by step how you're going to go through that. You're going to, for example, one of the hot topics at the moment is boycotting the NSS.
Yes. Okay. So it's no secret to people who know me that I was very much in favour of boycotting the NSS, and I have not filled it out this year, and I have encouraged other people to do it. I believe it's important because the NSS, it was proposed, the Lords have now sent it back to the Commons actually, so it may not work out this way, but it was proposed by the Commons that the NSS would be one of 3 metrics used to determine whether or not a university could increase its fees by up to £250 per year each year. I tried to give the SU the mandate to launch a boycott by doing a student idea. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough backing and it didn't get through. So I do understand that if I was to boycott it or initiate a boycott when in office, I would have to get the backing of students. However, I will make no secret of my personal preference for a boycott, and I will lobby very hard against any increase, even if the university is technically allowed to increase its fees.
Thank you. Would anybody like to jump in?
I'd just like to say I agree with everything Ned is saying here. I have, actually both of us attended a meeting recently on the state of higher education, at which it was suggested that the university, in conjunction with the SU, could come up with an alternative to the NSS. And I'm all for that sort of thing, really creating an intuitive, direct survey that really takes into account both the lecturers and the students' points of view to give a really informed piece of information on what it's like to go to this uni.
I think Real Student Survey was one of the ideas we came up with for the name. Yeah, just to show the university what really matters to students, specifically to UE as well.
Zain, Ahmed, would either of you?
Just a question. With the increase of fees, which of course none of us is happy with this, but do you think it's worth the effort more to lobby the university to get the most of this increase, or try to oppose it and probably it won't change?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that please? I didn't quite catch all of it.
I'm saying with the increase of fees, and of course we don't like this thing, but do you think the effort is worth more to put in making the most of this increase and making students get the benefit of this increase, or opposing it and putting the effort and probably it won't change?
I absolutely think it's worth the effort. I know that the university will be very much in favour of increasing its fees if allowed to, but I think it is very important because I think students are saddled with enough debt already. We've been asked to pay so much for an education. It's the most expensive in Western Europe, I believe, and I really am passionate about making sure higher education is accessible and affordable to everyone. I'm sure there are things that the money could be spent on, but quite frankly, I don't always trust the university to spend it in the way that necessarily benefits all of our students. I know that the Vice-Chancellor's salary is well into the hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be paid well, but I'm saying that we do need to look at how the university spends this and ask whether a fee increase is in our best interest, and I don't think it is.
I agree with... I agree with Sam and Ned, because coming from Scotland where the fees are free, although not here for me in England, but if you're a Scottish student and you study in Scotland, and Scottish universities are very good, they're not like their crap universities, and they don't charge people or students fees. The government pays for them, and it's around 1,000 something pounds. So it's not like the standard of learning is dropped. You go look at Edinburgh University, Glasgow University, St Andrews with Royal Family Studies. These are high-class universities and they're free. So it's not like there's an argument. For example, when the fees, NSS for example, I would back Ned and I would back Sam about boycotting it, because this is not something that's needed. So increasing fees is not needed. This is just universities gaining more from the students. And this is, again, increasing debts to students. So that's all I have to say for that. Anyways.
Thank you. Many of you have mentioned campus unity in your manifestos. This is a promise that Ahmed made last year, so we're going to go to Ahmed first, and then if each of you could outline how you think you would best unify the campuses. Ahmed?
So as I mentioned in my introduction, that I made this promise and I kept it, tried to be on each campus at least once, twice a week, so I can best represent our students. And hence, I want to continue building on this and take the learnings from this year forward and make things happen and make what the students want happen, because by the learning I got this year, I can achieve more things next year.
Yeah. So I have proposed in my manifesto a regular visit of once a month. And as I said, that's an absolute minimum. And the reason that's just once a month is that visit is just purely to go and sit in the SU spaces like this and listen to students and be accessible to students for 3-4 hours. And that's every campus. That's not just French A, Glenside and Bauer. So that's what I want to do. And I think it's really important that students have a chance to have someone there accessible that they can talk to at any time and to know regularly when those visits are going to be. So I'm aiming to schedule them at a regular date so that I can schedule meetings around them and make sure those are an absolute priority.
So the biggest concerns that Barashan students and Glenside and all these other campuses have is that they don't feel represented. And that's a very common issue. That's not new. It's been there for quite a while. So how we can combat that is just like how Ned is saying, engaging with them in person. Apart from on Facebook or online, wherever. So Ahmed has actually done a good job with engaging with other students on other campuses. I'll give him credit for that. It's a good job he's done. And this is something we want to continue on. So that's how I would do it as well.
So I feel when it comes to getting the campuses comparable, really unifying them together so they feel like one university, is make sure the facilities and services available at French A, for example, are also available at Glenside and Bauer. I know that they're not. I mean, going over to Glenside, for example, today, somebody was telling me about how they can't even get milk if they live on the campus, or bread, and it's simple items of food. I mean, it's frankly, I think it's laughable and totally ridiculous that's even a thing, and it should be so easily solved. In fact, to be honest, I think it should have been done already, but nothing has happened. If I was elected, I'd be sorting that out straight away. I'd be going to the campuses these other campuses once, twice a week, because I want to actually directly engage with the students, find out, right, what issues are you having this week? What is the problem? What are recurring issues? I'm going to try and do my best to solve them.
Thank you. And a question for Zain. In your manifesto, you talk about implementing the Faith Hub into the UE 2020 programme, which the FBL building is part of, if it's even open by 2020. Come on, laugh. And I just want to know, how are you going to do that? How are you going to push part of that very tight-knit plan, which has been costed and whatnot?
So, as currently the ISOC president, I'm already in discussions as ISOC president throughout the whole year with Ian, like how I mentioned in my opening speech. So, Ian and I have been discussing the possibilities of a new Faith Hub. So, as I was saying earlier, the Octagon, which is the current Faith Hub, if you want to call it, is going to be closing down in 3 years' time. So, that's going to be replaced. And the architecture and all that sort of stuff Ian's already been taking care of it. So, there's already things that can be implemented, and we just need a big voice to push it further, because not many people know about it. And this is something that is very important for faith-based societies, for example, ISO Christian Union, all these other societies. And this is the perfect opportunity for us to finally just come under one roof, where the prayer rooms is there, the Friday sermon prayer room is there, the Christian prayer room is there, every other prayer room is there. And right now we don't have that. We have something called a community hub where people can come and use it anytime they want, but it's not really representing the whole faith as a ground base.
If we go on to Ned, your first manifesto point is that you said you'll publish a summary or a report of every
That's
meeting.
correct.
Do you realise how many meetings presidents and vice presidents have to deal with
I do.
on a weekly basis? So how much time do you think will be spent writing about meetings you had rather than actioning what the contents of those meetings were?
You see, I don't see that as a problem, because if I'm in a meeting, I want to be taking notes on it. I want to be making sure that I know what's going on so that I can speak in it, so that I can answer questions, so that I can take part in the discussion. So I think really it's just a case of making sure I'm keeping detailed notes while I'm in that meeting, and then going back to my desk, typing them up, releasing them on social media, on the SU website. So I really don't think it would take up too much time. I'm aware there's a lot of meetings, but that's just something, as long as I keep detailed notes, I can just do it at the end of the day. I'll stay late if needed to do it.
It's on now. Excellent. Right, we'll move on to the Q&A. Derry's going to be wandering around the mic, so put your hands up if you've got a question for any of the candidates. And it's a gentleman at the back there. This is great watching Derry run.
Hi guys, first of all, good luck to all who are running for the presidency post. My name is Waleed. I am third year mechanical engineering student and I am the former president of the Islamic Society. My question is to Ahmed Imara. Ahmed, last year when you were running for election campaign, when you were running for election, you came to me, you came to our society and you asked for backing. And you promised us that you would deal with the issues Muslims face on campus. Can you please give us examples of how did you manage those issues? Because clearly, no puppies helped us.
Can you just mention what are the issues that you are speaking about?
Sorry?
Can you clarify the issues exactly that you are asking about?
Main issue was the Islamophobia awareness on campus. I don't see. I know the Islamic Society Zain arranged a talk with guys from Kuliam Foundation coming in, but that didn't go ahead as well. And we didn't see anything, so we didn't see SU take an initiative on that.
Okay, so as I clarified at the beginning, representation of all the students require that you work with all the students and all the societies to represent them. And I think with the Islamic Awareness Week, I tried to just be there in some of the events and take part as the same exactly as I do with the other societies and other faith society as well. So responding to your question, I was there during the Islamic Awareness Week, and I tried to be there and represent the students as Students' Union, because I think everything we do is student-led. So it has to come from the students, then the Students' Union support these events. It cannot be just the event put on by the Students' Union, because it's the student-led, not just the SU-led.
Are we allowed to reply to, yes, so, yeah, that's good, that's very good. So other SU presidents who are also Muslim, up and down the UK, they have ran campaigns called Islamic Awareness Month. And this is an initiative done by them, because they are the ones in that sort of circle to understand the problem, right? But what Waleed is trying to say, from what I'm understanding, is that he's not seen you take initiative on how you can tackle these issues. I mean, we have to tackle these issues because that's our job. That's our frontline job. We don't have pretty much anything else to do apart from tackling some misconceptions and stuff like that. But when you have someone in position who can represent a group, or even, of course, everyone at the same time, but who can represent a group because he's from that group better. And from my own personal experience, from my own personal view, I feel you've misrepresented us in a way. I feel that you've caused more stigma on campus amongst how Muslims are. And of course, I'm Muslim, so I'm raising this concern because this is something that's in me, and this is something I just wanted to share with all of you guys. So if you want to respond to that, I'll be very grateful. Okay,
cool. So as I mentioned, things has to come from the societies and the students, then get the support from the Students' Union. And as I mentioned, I'm representing all the students with different faith identities, meaning that all the faith identities we have, I try to support as much as I can. I could be only supporting a certain faith group or favor a certain group on the others, because this is unfair on other students. And as you know, because I belong to Middle Eastern country, a Muslim country, so I have this understanding. So me, myself, being a Muslim student, I think this tells a lot and explains a lot about what you have just mentioned now.
We got a hand up there, so we'll go to gentleman. I've been shown for me. Okay, fine. We'll come to you next. Okay. Right. Give us your name and what you do.
So I'm Freddie, and I study English. And this is for all of you. What are your views on the Prevent agenda, if you are familiar with it?
Yes, you go first.
I'm absolutely dead against the Prevent agenda, personally. I went to an event last term that was organised by the SU debating the Prevent agenda, and when the speaker against the Prevent agenda was taken ill, the speaker in favour of the Prevent agenda actually decided to cancel at the last minute, so we didn't even have anyone there to defend it. And I think it just shows that whoever it was, they were running scared. I just don't think there's anything to defend in terms of the Prevent agenda. I'm dead against it. Students, not suspects.
Okay, then we'll go to Zain.
There's no difference of opinion between Ned and I.
Thank you.
all I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam, you were chairing the meeting of Prevent.
Yes.
So let's hear your insights.
Well, I mean, yes, I would totally agree with Ned. I'm against the Prevent agenda. I think whilst in principle I understand the ideas behind it from a strictly objective point of view, the way in which it is used and abused, really, to target ethnic, religious minorities in this country is frankly criminal. And so, yes, I'm totally against it.
And finally,
I think the stand of the students' union is very clear on the Prevent agenda, and we are against Prevent agenda. However, we don't boycott the meetings of Prevent agenda, because if we are not there, we are not representing the students. We have to be there, and we have to make clear that we are against it. It's a national agenda, and we are against the Prevent as a national agenda. However, we try our best here in the university to make it as best as we can, because it's a national thing. So it's not only within UWI, but on a national level.
okay, thank you very much. And now I'll go to the gentleman who had his hand up.
Hello, this is for Zane.
Could
Why?
you give us your name?
Eden Pocock, history. Could I ask you why the extension of the one zone is more important than providing extra study spaces?
Okay, I'm not saying it's more important. I'm saying for the time being, look, it's not like I'm fighting against study spaces. Of course I want more study spaces. I'm also a student here. I want to go to the library and find a space to study. I can't. I have to go to the library and wait until 3-4 hours, wait in one zone, study there, then come back after 5. So it's not like I'm fighting against that. I'm not. I want something that can accommodate both. Let's fight for a bigger one zone because it's needed. Let's fight for more study spaces because it's needed. But I'm talking about the space. Now, that space can be used for the one zone because it's directly right next to the one zone. So we can use study spaces for something else. We can put it somewhere else. In a way, why would you want to study somewhere near the one zone in the first place? It's noisy as hell. Yeah. I mean, I can't concentrate personally when it's too noisy. So why would you want it next to the one zone? That's the worst place to put it. Would you agree? You wouldn't agree. That's fine. We will always have difference of opinion. That's fine. But in my own opinion, I would have that space dedicated to the one zone rather than study space because it's just not suitable for that purpose.
Okay, right.
I'd like to just come in on that, if I may. Whilst I understand Zane's point of view, one zone, it really is too small for the student population on French A. I am aware that Red Bar and the old SU are currently being considered for some other unknown project by the university. However, I would say once the new law business building opens, there's going to be floors and floors of space which can be converted into extra study space. It can be converted into sleep pod bays, relaxation areas. Even another floor could be dedicated above, for the one zone. All of that space is going to be free, and I'd just like to make the point, if you do elect me, I will be making sure that students get the maximum use of that space possible. Even if it means I have to spend a lot of time fighting against the university to get that space for you.
Okay, make it brief.
Just I would like to raise a point. We have always spoke about the new FBL, and the students will be moving from the current study space or like lecture spaces to the new FBL, meaning that the population now in one zone will be much less by next year. So why you are thinking about extension? The other thing is, if you are thinking about extension, considering the number of students will be here in this area next year, why you haven't thought about extending the students' union for a bigger space for students rather than extending one zone, which would be less people there anyway?
Your comment about saying there's going to be less people in one zone is a prediction. It's an assumption. It's not a fact. So that can be, in turn, the opposite as well. So I would argue the opposite fact. So I would say the one zone may be more busy. But that's just an assumption as well.
So you agree that there will be less students anyway?
Yes, if you assume you make an ass out of you and me. Okay. And sorry to cut you off like that. Oh, very nice.
Nice question.
Any other questions? Hands up, gentleman at the front. And then we'll go to you next.
Hello, I'm Bakai Winter, English and History student, also the president and founder of the Comedy Society. what I want to know is, obviously we discussed engagement, and it's quite good that obviously Ahmed was very engaged with students, and you guys said you're going to be very engaged with students as well. But the engaging with students is much more than engaging with the president. It's engaging with the entire university in itself, including societies like the one that I am, or that I founded. And I'd like to know, what would you do as the president to facilitate engagement with all the societies and other facilities that the university has to offer as well, aside from just engaging with yourself as a person? Cheers.
Yep. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I'd like to really get involved with what the officers and the VPs are doing in terms of events, because they're going to be much more directly linked to societies, to sports clubs, to events going on in and around uni, than I would be, just because they're going to have those extra contacts. So I'd like to be keeping up to date with what they're doing. I'd like to be attending as many events as I am physically able to. Obviously, I don't want to be going to all the events and neglecting my work as a president, but I'd like to strike an adequate balance between the two. So I can get involved in events, maybe try and, if I see one that's doing a similar thing to another, say, oh, maybe you guys should work together. You know, you could coordinate something, have a bigger event, have more people coming, you know, really get your society, your sports club publicised. And I like to work on that basis, really.
Anyone else got anything to add?
Yeah, I'll have go. So, I think Sam's right. It's great to go to these events. We've been to that HE address that we discussed earlier, and things on the prevent agenda. I think from the point of view of the president, I think any kind of free time space in the diary I'd like to make available to come to societies if they do have any concerns to express, and I could just make that bookable for people any time. And I'd like to invite society presidents to have en masse, to have discussions with them regularly to see what societies need to facilitate what they're doing, so we could have sort of a forum regularly to find out what they want, really.
Don't we have that already in the societies conference?
Yeah, I believe we do, but I'm talking like on a kind of more regular, casual basis. If people need something more urgently, to just come by, to be more available.
Okay. So if I've understood your question properly, which I hope I have one simple solution. Purpose built into society events. So us as ISOC, we do that very effectively, not just in uni, but from other unis too. We collaborate with other universities. So taking that on board with my knowledge and my sort of experience in this sort of field, I can try and facilitate purpose-built inter-society events. So one we done recently was called International Food Day. So I'm not sure if you guys heard about it, but hopefully you did. This was something we collaborated with other societies with. And if you have events purpose like that, for example, like a comedy nightclub purposely for you, but also some cultural food. So getting all the other national societies involved. I mean, this is something that we can facilitate quite cleverly if we think about it in a more sort of strategic way, in my opinion.
It's okay if we hold you. Sure, you can come back to you at some point. I believe the one in the denim top. Well, I know your name, but I don't want to be. Dimbleby doesn't. Yeah.
Jamie, current VP Education. This is to all candidates. What do you feel is the biggest issue facing students in higher education at the moment, and how would you go about tackling it?
Someone go.
Honestly, I think the biggest issue right now is being able to afford higher education. We're being saddled with massive debt, and it's only getting worse, as we've seen with the HE bill, with grants being cut, with rents constantly going up. And Bristol is, I believe, if not one of the cities with the fastest increasing rent. So I think that's particular to Bristol as well. As I've said, I will stand dead set against any fee and rent increases. And I want to try and increase the support that the Students' Union offers to help students. And I think Sam had a great idea about rebuilding the accommodation services. I also would like to see some sort of system where students could kind of offer potential future tenants a warning about any bad landlords, bad houses that could be available on the SU website. And I think because a lot of students have to work part-time as well, and we all know that some bosses may take advantage of students. I work right now for a small company doing phone work near Southmead Hospital, and And we do have some issues there, and I think it would be good if students could have a chance to voice concerns about employers as well, and talk about who the best people to work for are in the city, so that the students can know where they can get that extra support, that extra help, that extra bit of money if they need it.
It's okay if we go to, have you got anything to say, Ahmed? Because I didn't hear from you last time.
So there are a set of issues facing students in higher education. In my opinion, I would say, of course, affording education in the first place and joining universities, then affording to continue in this higher education, and the number of dropout of universities, especially in the first year, is really high. So how we can try to help the students and offer them the support they need. And also employability as well. You invest a lot of money in your degree, hoping to get the job you are hoping for after you finish your degree. How we can make sure that students will secure their jobs after finishing the degree and get their money back.
Sam?
Well, I'd like to say I totally agree with what Neb was saying about the cost of education. However, I would say that it's very difficult to quantify what is the most important thing affecting students in higher education. I would say it's a combination of factors. It's the high cost of education, it's the high cost of accommodation, it's student well-being as well. Well-being services at UE in general could be a lot better. I mean, I know that there's been a very, very determined fight in the last few years for Nightline to be implemented on this campus, something which I think really is just, mic's going off, a basic, fundamental well-being service that should be provided, and yet hasn't been. So I would be keen to really introduce a program doing the accommodation, letting services, getting those up and running, student run, no agency fees, that kind of thing, to settle the accommodation thing. I'd like to lobby to, boycott the NSS, keep the university from raising their tuition fees, and I'd like to implement well-being services such as Nightline, get them really set up, see if I can investigate other well-being services that could be implemented and really should be implemented.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Zain.
If I'm honest, the biggest issue is different to each person. So I can't sit here and say what the biggest issue might be. The most common issue, however, is something I need to look at. I won't say an answer that I don't know anything about. So I need to research about what the most common issue is among students. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay, thank you very much. And you go to, Sian, because I know who you are.
Hi, Sian, current Vice President Community and Welfare. So mental health is a massive issue that's affecting students right now. How would you, as President, kind of tackle this through your role in the Students' Union? What do you think is the most important thing to do?
Anyone want to go first, Zain?
So one of the things I've mentioned in my manifesto is a relaxation room, and that also tackles mental health, because this is in my own vision, I want this place to be somewhere away from the busyness of the uni. So for example, the most busy part of the uni is the one zone itself, the most noisiest place, the most sort of busiest place in the uni. We want it to be away from this. So this is another way of diverting traffic away from all these areas, so students can be more spread out on campus, because the campus is huge. It's one of the biggest campuses in the UK, and so we need to utilize the space that we have. And my answer to that would be a relaxation room, something that's permanent, something that's going to stay there for years to come.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Ahmed.
So with mental health, I think that this year the Students' Union have worked a lot on different projects on mental health and trying to lobby the university for support for mental health. Mental health is a big issue facing a lot of students, and each of us at least had at some point in their life a mental health issue, whether it's big or small, but we still face and experience some mental health issues due to the stress we can face with life, financial situations, or studies. And I believe that better funding and better support from the well-being service for students studying at UE is really required, not only for French A students, but also for other students on other campuses as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Sam?
So I think when it comes to mental health of the students on campus, I think it needs a multi-directional approach. You need small things like
a creation of a relaxation area, sleep pod bays, things like that. You need larger things like the implementation of Nightline, something which I know is going on at the moment, and better provision for mental health services on all campuses. And I would be keen to work with the VP of Community and Welfare to make sure that these services are the services that students require, because they are going to know much better than I will what it is that students require, because they're the VP of Community and Welfare, that's what they're there for. So I'd like to coordinate directly with them and the Community and Welfare officers to make sure that students are getting what they need when it comes to mental health.
And Ned.
Mental health, you're right, is an absolutely huge issue on campus. And I think it's become more visible in recent years, and that's really great because, as some of the other people have mentioned, a lot of us struggle with it. My own mother struggled quite desperately with her mental health, with clinical depression, while she was at university and when I was a young child. And so I've always really known the value of speaking up about these things and of trying to get rid of the stigma. And I think that's important. We've had some great mental health awareness this year. I think absolutely we need that Nightline, and we need to secure funding, and we need to not let the university tell us that there isn't the budget for this, because there absolutely is. And I think I would also like to see some guest speakers talking about these issues, coming in, us having events regularly, just so that we keep the awareness up throughout the year. And yeah, absolutely, some kind of relaxation area so that students can get away from the stress of it all. And I think we should also look to ramp up support, just put in that extra mile during times like exams and assessments and dissertation handings, because these are the times when students will be most vulnerable to mental health issues.
Thank you very much. May I also remind you all that the Debating Society is open to any external guest speakers you may know. And gentleman there in the cream card. Well,
we're going there next. I have a question from the floor.
Do you?
Yes,
sorry.
like I informed you
Well,
before.
we'll go to you next then.
Apologies. There's a question from the floor that I'm asking on behalf of somebody else. At the moment, you'll know societies get a budget at the start of the year. This is not the case currently with fundraising societies or societies, that do purely charity work. I was wondering, what do you think about this, and could it be something that you work on in the future?
Anyone want to answer that?
I'll come in on that.
Yep, absolutely.
So I was actually recently talking to the president of the Council Research Society, and she was describing the difficulty she had with obtaining funding for her society and coordinating with other societies, really to increase their membership, get the awareness out there, that kind of thing. And to be honest, I don't really see why there would be any problem with providing these societies with money. Yes, they do have external affiliates that do provide them with limited funding, but we can't just expect them to entirely rely on that. And I think there is more than enough money available that perhaps could be spent on better things like raising awareness for cancer research and these other very important societies.
Hey, thank you. I'll go to Ned.
Yeah. So the question was about budgets for the fundraising societies, yeah. Indeed. So absolutely, I think it's important that we put all societies on an equal footing in terms of budget. I think it's really important that everyone knows, because it just helps societies run better as the year goes on. And I think that making sure they know what they're getting, I think is important, and it's something I would look to work to do, definitely.
Okay, I'll go to Ahmed, if you've got anything to say. You don't have to, obviously. But.
So regarding funding for societies, this is something I've been working on this year. And as we know that we would love to get all the societies, all the money we have, but also we are limited on budget. So you have to be realistic. I cannot go and say or give like unlimited money for societies while we have unlimited budget. So that's why we try to allocate the budget in the best way we can and get more money from the university as well to support our societies and our student-led projects. So what I can say that better allocation for funds for societies and sports as well.
Thank you. And Zain?
I agree with all the candidates on their points regarding this issue. It's obviously a very problematic issue, and I agree with Ned when he says equal funding should be there for any society, whether you're fundraising or just a faith society or any club society. It should be equally split. So if that's something that's possible, that's something I would work on. And of course, if for the time being, for example, our own society, ISOC, so what we do is to increase our budget, we go actively look for sponsorships. So something a fundraising society can look for is sponsorships to counteract that problematic issue for that period of time. Because it's not something that will be fixed overnight. This is a recurring problem that's many years in the past has brought up as well.
Okay, thank you. And the gentleman over there who I couldn't ask earlier.
Hi, my name's Andrew Geddes. I'm a current sitting member of DPC and a mechanical engineering student in my third year at UE. I've been here for 4 years now, so I've kind of seen ebb and flow. One thing I have seen, though, is Ahmed recently shared, really on his Facebook, was somebody heckling him for the lack of freedom of speech. Now, this is not Ahmed's fault. It was horrific, the language that was used towards him, but it is a problem. And I want to know what your views are on freedom of speech on campus, and how you can improve that.
Okay, thank you. And I think I'll start with Ahmed then.
Okay, so as you mentioned, this is a very important topic, and no one can oppose the freedom of speech, but also we have to consider all the groups of students we have and how we can make the balance between freedom of speech, but also any kind of phobia against these students should be prevented. Freedom of speech means that you can say and express your views and opinion without causing any, I won't say offense, but harm for others who might be having different opinion from yours. Express your views. This is your right, and no one can stop you from expressing your views. But also always think that there's others who will not agree with you, and it's about how you express your views. Just the way you do it, not the reason you do it.
Thank you. I'll go across, so I'll start with Sam.
Okay. So I have seen this video, and I have to sympathise, Ahmed, that it really was quite horrible, the things that were being said about you. I think when it comes to freedom of speech, I know the SU does have its safe spaces policy, and if I'm honest, I am all for said safe spaces policy. However, I think that on both sides, pro-safe space, anti-safe space, there has been an abuse of the term, taking it out of context, what it really means, which is just, have some common sense, be nice to each other, It doesn't kill you to express your opinion without citing out this horrible hate speech. And I'd like to, one, lead by example, demonstrate that you can abide by the safe spaces policy and still get any kind of point across. And two, I'd like to raise awareness about safe spaces policy, but at the same time be encouraging free speech across the campus, because, that's what a university is. It's a place where you can say and do things as you please, and it's a place where you discover your political points of view, your ethical, your religious points of view. But at the same time, you need to be aware that you have to respect the fact that other people may not agree with you.
I agree with Sam that university is a place that you come to be challenged. It's not somewhere you come to be told you're right all the time. It is somewhere you come to be challenged, and that's something that I've really valued about my experience here in my lectures and outside of them. But we can't tolerate any sort of hate speech or hate on campus. Now, there's two aspects of the freedom of speech. There's that, and I'm pretty sure we all agree that hate speech is unacceptable, and but that everyone should have freedom of speech. But there's also, I was having a conversation, I was just reminded of earlier in the year with one of my lecturers, talking about some time ago, they tried to put on an event, there was some critique of the arms trade, I believe it was, and it got cancelled because the university vetoed it because they had some kind of deal with some arms dealers here. And I think that's another important point about freedom of speech, is that we can't let the university roll us over on these issues. If a society wants to put up an event that criticises something the university has ties with, criticises the university, then we as the Students' Union cannot let that be rolled over, and we need to demonstrate that we support everyone's right to freedom of speech, that we support people expressing these views, even if they stand in contrast to what the university or even to other students believe.
Thank you, Ned. And finally, Zane.
Again, I agree with Ned, but it's a strange thing, isn't it? The borderline between freedom of speech and hate speech. So it's a very thin line, which I find very amusing in a way. So freedom of speech, of course, we are humanitarians first before we're anything else. We have to stand up for each other. And this is a way to cancel out hate speech. or whatever you want to call it in that terms. So engaging with other people, people have a right to express their opinions. That's obviously base one. They have a right to express their opinions. But we also have to balance that in a way of uniting with each other and just cancelling out anything that's negative towards a group of people, towards a sect of people, whoever it's going to be. So this is about us engaging with you and you engaging with amongst yourselves about how we can tackle this issue.
Okay, thank you. Can I just have a little gauge for what has... you want to follow up on that? Is it okay if we get Derry at run? We could do that, yeah. If we go to gentleman at the front row there, but then we'll come back to you because I feel that's an interesting topic.
James, first year politics and international relations student. Or in at least 3 of your manifesto pledges, you all speak of very big plans, for example, expansion of one zone, sleeping pods. Have you had any sort of preliminary meetings with the university or even budgetary prerequisites into any of these big manifesto pledges to ensure they're actually fully achievable? As an example, you're both saying the university are currently planning to use Red Bar for a secret project. Yet Zain is currently saying one zone could be pushed and expanded into Red Bar. As I say, have you had any sort of consideration regarding these big manifesto pledges that they're actually truly achievable for the students you're offering them to?
So myself, currently, I am going to be honest, I've not had any meetings regarding this issue. But when it comes to the actual campaign itself, when it comes to the manifesto itself, when you have something that's healthy, when you have something that many people have voted for in your favor, just for argument's sake, say I'm elected, and you have this on paper, you have it on the screen, the university knows that people have voted for this thing. So this is when the negotiations start, this is when conversations start. I didn't choose at the beginning of the year that I'm going to be running for president. This only came very recently. It came very late as well. And this is because of the backing people are showing me that they want to see me in this position. So I didn't have that time to make those conversations, to have that dialogue with the university, to go and see whether it is highly achievable or not. But in my opinion, through logistics and through logic, I think it is very achievable because it's something the university needs. It needs to cater for that thing. And it's something that no one else has looked at. I don't know why, if I'm honest. I'm not sure why nobody else has looked at the most commonly used place in the university, which is the one zone. It's the most heavily trafficked place in the entire on the entire campus, and nobody's talking about it. And it's right in front of your eyes. It's a saying, you miss the thing that's on the tip of your nose. And this is something that's on the tip of all of our noses.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Ned.
Yeah. Okay, so I haven't spoken about the one zone and any big budgetary things in my manifesto. And so I haven't had any meetings with the university about this. And that's because I'm trying to make promises that I definitely can guarantee I can keep. And so I've tried to keep my promises about things within the role, the direct role and the direct remit of the presidency. So that's what I've been doing. That's why I've been talking about transparency, accountability, about representation. And that's why I've also talked about some things that I'm very certain are achievable, such as food waste bins, such as visiting all these campuses, such as, for example, I also, after some conversations with a friend of mine who was a student living at home in his first year, we've talked about proposing a home student officer to represent students living at home, because a lot of us, I think, associate university with moving out, but that's not the same for everyone. So I think it's a unique experience that deserves representation. So I've really tried to keep my manifesto to things that I know I can deliver on.
Can I reply to that quickly?
Yeah, very quickly.
Sorry. It's not like I agree with your... it's not like I disagree with your manifesto. I think your manifesto is very good. But you're not promoting ambition.
No, okay.
This is something that UE needs, and any university needs, to promote ambition. If they see their own leader leading something that's huge for the entire university,
sure,
hopefully this will send a ripple effect to the students that something can be achieved through themselves as well.
I appreciate that, and I do believe that we can achieve these things. What I want to do, though, is to talk to students about what they do want. I'm trying not to assume or to get ahead of myself. I'm trying to show students what I can do, what is achievable, very achievable, but that will make a real difference. And
Almost easily achievable.
Not easily achievable. It's a lot of hard work, this transparency bent I'm going on, I believe, as was pointed out earlier. But that's so that I can get a better idea of the students' views.
Okay,
Can I come in on this? I mean,
I was going to go, Ahmed just was sort of signaling me just before you.
Sure,
And
sure.
then you can have the last word.
Just a question, because I was in this position last year as well when I was running for the first time. So how do you know that, or like how do you measure that what you have promised is achievable? What are the measurement tools you use to know that what you have promised is achievable? Is it like research you have done, or meeting you had, or how do you know that this is achievable? Because we all have really good manifesto policies, but it's about how we can achieve that and make them happen.
Okay, start with Sam, because he was...
So the sleep pod idea, I proposed it originally, I campaigned for it, I made it get one of the highest scores in the student ideas history so far. As part of that, I did research into the financial side of things, and I believe it's something that the SU can afford to do, and the uni can afford to do. And as a side point, I would say that in terms of making for the university, making the campus more, aesthetically appealing, having a sleep pod bay would be something that, to me, logically, they'd be more than interested in. In terms of actually getting it done, I've been liaising with the current VP of Education, Jamie Jordan, to make sure that it is happening. He has taken charge of said project, but I'm still involved indirectly to to be sort of pushing it on, making sure meetings are being had. And if I am elected, regardless of whether I'm elected, I'm still going to be pushing for it because I wanted to see it happen, at least on French A. However, if I am elected, I think it's more than feasible financially to get it done not only on French A, but Glenside and Bower Ashton.
Right, okay, I'm going to have to ask you two to be brief on this, I'm afraid.
Okay. So in response to Ahmed and Zain, what I would say is that, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I believe that transparency is not just an end in itself, but it's a way to get people more engaged and open with the student union. Now, my most ambitious thing that I propose is to try and get the university to stop raising fees and rents. And I've not promised I can do that, but I have promised that I will fight tooth and nail. And I do believe that's achievable, but I believe it's achievable with mass mobilisation from our students. And that's why I see all these transparency and accountability promises as a way to get students engaged, invested in what the students' union is doing, and mobilised to fight for what we believe in.
Okay, and Zain, very quickly.
So coming back to the one zone point, so this is not something that I just came up with myself. This is something I've been observing for the past 2 years I've been on campus. And I've been talking with people since February time about this issue. So that's when I first decided when I wanted to run. So coming to the point again about students' feedback on it and whether the students want it or not, this is something that's very easily achievable, whether to get that information from them, because you can run a survey. And I've been talking to students whilst this campaign is going on about what they feel about it. And the one point that makes them very excited and makes them very sort of into my campaign is that thing about the one zone. The rest of the stuff is like bonuses for them. The one zone is the highest thing they're looking at, and they're saying that's one of the most powerful points any candidate has for any of the positions. So that's my reply to that issue.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to the gentleman there, but I think we're going to have to think about wrapping up, so we'll go you and then... People who've already asked a question, put your hands down. Lady next to Sean. I'm sorry, but, time.
Okay. Sorry, you're going to have to rewind about 5 minutes to when you talked about criticism. At what point does criticism of an idea or an ideology become hateful? Because we're here at university to discuss, criticize, analyze, and think deeply about various ideologies, ideas, and the differences that are between us. So at what point does criticism of an idea go too far?
Ned.
When that criticism is based in ignorance, is what I believe.
What does that mean?
If you're criticising something without knowing about it, without having done your research, without knowing facts about it, and it's hateful, then that is a form of ignorant criticism that I think it spills over, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're absolutely right. When does legitimate criticism become hate speech? There's an enormous grey area in between there. And whilst I would say, if we all thought with common sense, we could probably recognise when one is one and one is the other. There are facilities that have been implemented, such as the Democratic Procedures Committee, to, look at these situations objectively and say, okay, let's look at it from one point of view, from another point of view, and really weigh up the options here and see whether this is indeed hate speech or whether it is legitimate criticism. And I would be keen to be working with the Democratic Procedures Committee to make sure that, you know, when I'm addressing these issues, if I am elected, that I am doing so in the correct way from an objective point of view.
Okay, Zain, because you talked about Islamophobia earlier, so I'd like to hear your views on this.
So legitimate criticism. So if you're criticizing someone and you're showing ignorance at the same time, so meaning you have a lack of information, that is for me the biggest issue. When you're showing ignorance towards an issue, when you're taking word from someone else, you're not researching yourself. So this is where, for example, how James mentioned Islamophobia comes around, because they're taking word from other people. They're not looking into the issue as a whole by themselves. And when people do that, they come to realize that what their views are wrong. They change their views just because they're learning from themselves and not learning from other people. And this is one important issue that we have to, of course, highlight, is the issue of ignorance. And that comes in line with criticism.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ahmed, just because of the time, we're not going to have everyone answering every question. So can we go to Chelsea, please?
Chelsea McNulty, I'm a psychology student. You've all spoke about like the prices of rent and all that, but like what about the prices of stuff on campus? Because like I find food is quite expensive on campus, and then I've got to pay for that on top of all the other like expenditures that you spoke about. So I just want to know like what you would do about that.
Start with Ahmed.
Okay, so in my manifesto, I mentioned that I want to lobby for more diverse option foods to cater for all the diverse group of students we have, and also to be affordable. So this is something I've addressed in my manifesto, and I'm aware that's an issue which I want to address. So this is something I'll be working on anyway.
Okay,
it's about pricing, not about diverse food, like she was mentioning.
Yeah, I said to be affordable, so I think this answers the question.
Okay, one more, I'm afraid. Sorry. If anyone who wants... yeah, go.
You're right. Yeah. So I know that the food and drink supplied for the SU shops, for the bar, is obtained by the SU by a specific provider, and that's just part of the NUS policy. However, I am more than happy to debate said policy with the NUS, debate said prices with the providers. There's always a bit of leeway to be had if you really investigate it, so I'd be more than happy to go in, look into that.
Okay. Right, Daria's got a young lady next to him.
I'm Sasha, I study sociology. There was a student idea recently about having a women's officer. How do the candidates feel about that?
Ned,
I would feel very strongly in favour of that. We've recently had International Women's Day, and I know there was some stuff on at the SU for that, which I think is great. Yeah, that's another position that I think we should have. I think the role of the officers in many ways, having a postgrad officer and international students officers, is to represent certain sections of the student body that might otherwise be absorbed into the larger whole, or that issues are sometimes ignored. So I think the idea of a women's officer is a very good one.
I think it's a fantastic idea, personally. Being part of the Democratic Procedures Committee, I've been part of the debates on, running the student councils for should we have a women's officer or not, and the main question that always gets asked is, why don't we then have a men's officer, which seems totally ridiculous when you actually think about it. It's the same argument as why do we have a women's day and not a men's day? Well, every other day is a men's day, in short, I'm all for the idea.
And are not, to play devil's advocate, and are not specific issues for men?
Oh, of course there are, but those can be addressed through other means, I feel, for example, in increasing the level of well-being services available for men specifically, and the problems that men face.
Last one? Do you want to say anything, Zain?
I agree with both. There's nothing more to
that's
add
fine.
from me. I'm supportive of it.
Yeah. Daria, is any? Scott.
I'm a biomedical student. I just wanted to ask Ahmed something because I saw on your manifesto. You said something about you providing more placements. How could you do that? Because I think a lot of students are struggling with this, especially us, because we haven't seen any change from last year, and I just want to know how are you going to do this? How are you going to provide more space?
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
Thank you.
I mentioned in my manifesto that I want to make sure that there are enough placement opportunities for our students. And the reason I mentioned this because I've been in discussion with the university during this entire year to make sure that our students have the opportunity to apply for placements, especially with the students who are less likely to get placement opportunities when it comes to international students or students who struggle a lot with applying for placements, how we can support them to make the best application, how we can make sure that we have kind of contribution with other institutions that can get for our students placement opportunities and make the most of their time, and also even if it's not for a whole year, but at least during the summer or during for a few months. I can't hear.
You're saying that, but I don't know how. I just want to know how you're going to provide more. Are you saying you will? Yeah. But the question is how. What I want to know things that are going to happen.
So this would be into two parts. First part, making sure that within the university itself, that the university offer placement for students with the big projects the university is undertaking. So this is one opportunity. The other opportunity is collaboration with other institutions and making sure that we have better relationships and how we can get them to offer more placement opportunities by expanding the network that we have outside the university as well.
Okay, I've had a couple of questions from the audience. One is, I want an answer from Zain and Ahmed on this, on the women's officer. Just a yes or no. Do you support the idea of a women's officer?
Women's officer?
Yes.
Yeah, I said before I agree with
did, yes. Sorry, I mean Ahmed. No, my bad. No, it's fine. Yes, you said yes.
Yeah.
Ahmed.
I'm always in favor with better representation, and however this representation will be, I'm always in favor with having better representation.
So is that yes for women officer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jess, English student. You all talk about creating more spaces in one zone, but how do you think that's going to have like an impact on the Students' Union? Because I also work for the Students' Union for Team Community, and we try really hard to create a sense of community across campus. And one of the things we try and do is run campaigns like International Women's Day and LGBT History Month, and try and make that more active and lively in here. I just want to know what your thoughts are and how that would take away from those campaigns.
I think you make a very good point there. Obviously, if you're increasing capacity on one end of the campus, it's going to decrease traffic in other areas. And I think the Students' Union, where it is at the moment, in regard to the rest of the campus, does suffer from being sort of on the periphery. However, I think in terms of where people are studying, where they're being educated, they need facilities close to, where they can just go straight there, have some lunch, relax for a little bit, and then go straight back if they need to. I mean, sometimes you may only even have half an hour free time during a sort of a 2-hour break to grab something to eat. That being said, I think as part of being an SU president, it's representing these events, advertising them yourself, going out and saying, I'm going to this, why aren't you? So if I was elected, I'd be more than happy, and I'd be really keen to get involved in as many events as I could and really be advertising it around, going around talking to people, getting it on my Facebook page, however I choose to do that, to make all students aware on all campuses what events are available.
One more person to answer?
Yep.
Yeah, go on, Zain.
So, for example, my own policy, which is extending one zone. So if this is something that Students' Union is responsible for, don't you think... Sorry, did someone say something? Oh. So don't you think that's a powerful statement coming from the Students' Union itself? Something that they're responsible for because they're president and the people who voted for him, they're the ones responsible for implementing that. So this is instead in counteract to the university, their own initiative. They want to extend the one zone, but it's something that the Students' Union is responsible for. That shows the presence and the power of the Students' Union, in my own opinion.
Okay, and we'll go to the blonde-haired gentleman.
Hello, Christoph, Business and Law. I have first question for you, Ahmed, and then I would be happy if you all can add your peace of mind as well. You said you are trying to go to all the campuses at least once or twice a week, is that right? How many times have you actually been to the Gloucester campus? And for all of you, if you would like to engage that campus as well to your policies. Thank you.
So first, I would like to just clarify, are you aware of the nature of the demography of student at Gloucester campus. Okay, so for others who are not aware, it's Gloucester campus in Gloucester, obviously, and it's more about nursing courses, which means that students are most of the time on placements. Plus, we don't have any student office there. So it's building without any actual presence for a student. There's no office, there is no rooms there, there is nowhere you can sit there and do any work. So due to these reasons, and also the physical barrier is a day travel to go and come back, so we have campus officer for Gloucester campus. And this is the link between Gloucester campus and Students' Union. Because if I went there for a day and there is no one there, this is a wasted day without speaking to students, without doing any job. So I have to be sure that this day there are students there. And this is really hard because students are on placements. And to make sure, like if I went to Glenside and there's no one there, I can come back to Frenchay easily. But if I went to Gloucester, no one, this is bad planning basically. So that's why we try always to consult with our Gloucester campus officer to make sure that the views of the students studying at Gloucester is represented. And also we have achieved some stuff this year. Most of the events, we had also a lot of events going on at Gloucester campus. And this is improvement from last year because we didn't have this last year. So I can say there are improvements and representation as well.
Okay, Ned, you mentioned your manifesto that you want to visit each campus at least once a month. So
yes,
obviously
and I
you
have
something to say.
been clear tonight. I believe that I'm including not just the campuses in Bristol, I'm including Gloucester in that. I'm aware that it's out of the way. I'm aware that it takes time to get there. But because the idea of this promise is to engage with students in a social setting, in a more relaxed area, to get their views, I'm more than happy to do that on my own time. I'm more than happy to do that in the evening. I'm more than happy to get a train up there once a month at my own expense if necessary, because I believe it's worth it. I believe it's worth bringing those students in. And like I said, it's a big responsibility representing all these students, and you need to make sure you're representing everyone. And if it's on my own time, then so be it.
Thank you, Ned. Right, I'm afraid we have to go to our last 4 questions, and I've seen people stick their hand up. So we'll start off. Where's Daria gone? He's going there. We will definitely. Doria will come to you, and we'll come to one over there.
Hello, this is Mofiza Rida. I am current French campus officer, plus I'm second year law student. I have an open question to all of you 4 candidates. What would be the unique selling point towards students for all of you? Why students prioritize you particularly among the other 3?
I think we've got to hear from all of us here.
Would you mind repeating the question? Sorry.
Yeah, a few. So is it a case of what makes you unique and what makes you the best?
Exactly.
Okay.
What would be the unique selling proposition? Like why students particularly prioritize you based on which point among the other 3?
Why are you specifically the best candidate?
Right,
Exactly.
sorry,
I've got a little bit of a cold. My hearing's a little bit sort of off today. Why am I the best candidate? Well, I'm experienced. I've been working with the SU in the role of Democratic Procedures Committee, getting involved in campaigns there, getting involved in student campaigns as well, and externally in Bristol. So I've got the experience of working in student government. I know what I'm doing. I've got the commitment to see things through. You know, if I put my mind to something, I'm going to accomplish it. I'm not going to just leave it. And I have the capability and the wherewithal, the resources, and the connections to really know if I've got a problem or I've got an issue that I need to resolve, I can say, right, okay, I need to speak to these people, get this done, talk to them, see if I can get resources from them, and then get the job done as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Okay, try and keep it to one point because it's your USP.
Okay. I think that I'm the right person because of my unique experience. As I mentioned, students to fly for the protest in London on the 19th of November to get students and staff alike along. So I believe that I've had experience with universities from all angles, and I believe that's what makes me the best candidate.
Okay, and Zain.
So the biggest point I want to mention on...
Remember.
1 point. The 1 point I want to mention on is trust. People have seen the work I've done around campus, around the work I've done with the society. I've not been in the society for just 1 year. I've been in there for 2 years, growing it, making it stronger, making it better. And it's won Society of the Year last year, and it's probably going to win Society again this year as well. Tough competition though, tough competition, I'll give it that. But we have been the most active society, in my opinion. But the biggest thing is trust. People trust me to be in this position. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be in this position. You guys chose me to be in this position. I had people backing me from the beginning, saying, Zen, you have to run for this because we trust you. So that's the thing I want to say.
And finally, Ahmed, 1 point.
Okay, so I would say that I have proved my credentials and I have done what I have promised last year. And this can give trust for people for next year that they know what I have promised this year I will achieve as well. So it's not just glory promises, but it's things I know I can achieve. That's why your vote will be in the right place.
Okay. Thank you. And lady over there. Technical issues.
Hello. Hiya, I'm Daisy. I'm an English student at UE. I just wanted to mainly kind of ask the question to Zain and Sam, I think it is, about mental health. I kind of want to ask you guys why you think that you're more focused on relaxation rooms and sleep pods rather than services like a drop-in centre or a 24-hour service, a helpline run by students for students. Because, you know, a relaxation room, that's all very well, but, you know, at this uni, I've heard quite a lot of students, I don't know an awful lot about this topic, but a lot of students are saying that their, you know, actual services with professionals aren't kind of up to scratch here, that they aren't guaranteed sessions, or they have to fill out forms, which can be really daunting to people, and it's not encouraging people to actually speak up. You know, like Ned was saying about wanting to make voices heard. Why are you not focusing on having drop-in sessions which aren't as daunting and more anonymous ways of talking about mental health rather than just a room where you can sit in?
You make a very good point, and I would totally agree with you. I would never for a minute say that sleep pod bays are the be-all and end-all of improving mental health and well-being on this campus. Drop-in sessions are something that I have discussed on various occasions at various meetings and campaign groups, and I think they are a fantastic idea, especially if they're run by and for students. I don't know if you heard earlier, I was discussing Nightline. I think that's a fantastically important student service that is, I believe, on track to being provided now after a very long and hard fight. But when it comes to mental well-being and health, I would say top priority is, you know, investing in these kind of programs, making them available across all campuses, not just relying on things, you know, like sleep pod bays, petting puppies, that kind of thing to cover our mental health and well-being.
Okay, Ahmed, would you like to add your thoughts to this?
Regarding the one zone?
More to Zain. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll go to Zain.
So, the idea of the relaxation room, that's not like a concrete solution to the problem. That's a step towards the solution to the problem. So I'm fully with the idea of introducing drop-in sessions. I'm fully with the idea of having a nightline service at uni. It's not like I'm against any of these ideas, but I'm just mentioning relaxation room as a step towards it and as an inclusion for all the other ideas that we can counteract and we can work on. So it's not like I disagree with you on that fact. I completely agree with you. We need to tackle mental health. Today, in fact, unintentionally, I spoke with someone who was speaking to me about their mental health problem. And this is something they suffered 2 years ago. I don't want to mention any name or gender, but this is something they suffered 2 years ago where they were on the verge of suicide. And no one was there for them. So this is something that hit me quite hard and something I didn't want to share, but I thought I'd share it now since you mentioned it. And this is something, of course, I take very seriously. Because even with myself, I wasn't suffering from mental health, but I was on the verge of it at least. Last year, I almost stepped down from the Islamic Society in August. I actually did step down from the Islamic Society, but I came back a couple of weeks later through some talks I had with other people. And one of those talks actually was with Ahmed. So I give him credit for that. That's something I owe him too. So he was there for me at that point, and he encouraged me to come back into the ISOC, and we have successfully been very active again. And so this is something that I take very seriously. It's not something that I'm ignoring whatsoever.
Okay, we're going to move on to the question here, and then there'll be a final question over there.
My name is Marwan. I'm second year accounting and finance. At the beginning of your speech, unlike the other three candidates, you did not mention something about working in a team, in the SU, working alongside around 5 or 6 VP presidents. Plus, throughout the year, I myself have never seen you talking or mentioning something about working in a team within the SU, and I've never seen you appreciating other people's work. Yeah, having said that, if you were elected, are you gonna do the job you own? Or does that mean you are not a team worker?
So is the question whether Ahmed is a team worker or not? Okay. Are you a team worker, Ahmed?
I'm not just very clear on the question, because when you speak about teamwork, we are working as a team already, and I have been doing this job for a year. So I don't find the point of like saying something I've been doing already. It's like saying I study for my course. Do you have to say this? Because you are studying, so you have to be studying for your course already. So that's why I didn't mention. Just I don't want to be saying things that I've been doing already. That's why I didn't mention this. If this answers this question.
Okay. Yeah. Go for gentleman there.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm business economics third year, and what I've picked up from today is that there seems to be a lot of segregation between the SU and the student body itself. I'm sure I speak for a majority of students, actually, especially personally, that I don't really feel a part of this SU at all. I do feel like it's me, and then there's the SU. And I'm hearing a lot of these secret plans for the red bar. How can this be so? How can there be a secret plan for our red bar? How does that make sense? This is our university, isn't it not? So my question is that how are you guys going to oppose this secrecy and make sure that you include us, the people who feel that there is no such SU that is working for us? Because honestly, it does feel quite divided. So yeah, my question is that how are you going to include us and how are you going to stop all the secrecy?
Ned, I haven't heard from you in a while.
As I mentioned before, and I've mentioned tonight, I think that talking about what the SU is doing, releasing reports on everything, letting people know is a great way to get people involved and personally invested in what the SU is doing. And I think that's really important. If someone's personally invested, then they feel a part of this SU. And that's why I want to do what I want to do. I want to make sure that everyone feels a part of this. And it's an ambitious project because we do have a student body, I believe it's 27,000, would you believe it? 27,000 people strong. So it's a huge task, but I believe it's achievable because, as you say, we are a university and we need to let people know what's going on, what the SU is doing for them, how the SU is fighting them, and how it's standing up for them. And I think that gets people invested and involved in our union.
Okay, and Sam?
I'd just like to say I share your frustration. I was trying to sort of set aside that area for the sleep pod bay because it would be the ideal location, really. And then to find out that I can't even find out why I can't use it is totally ridiculous. Suffice to say, if I was elected, I would be making sure that I'm holding the university to account at every single opportunity. I will be attacking them all the time to say, why haven't you given me this information? Why haven't you given the student body this information? You are quite right. This is our university. They may be here, under the pretense of making money, but this is an educational institution. We need to know what's going on. And so I hope that answers your question.
Ahmed, if you want to add anything, seeing as you are the... You want to add anything, Ahmed, seeing as you are...
Okay, just to respond to the point about Trip Bar. At the moment, Trip Bar is not owned by the Students' Union. It's owned by the university. Because once we moved out of the old Students' Union, it's not anymore our property. That's why we don't have any control over the old SU. It's owned totally by the university, and we have to lobby and negotiate to get some use of this space. And hence, we don't have the full information, and we try as much as we can to get this information. And the information we get, we try to release. So it's not secrecy from the Students' Union. It's just we are trying our best to get as much information as we can from the university. And of course, we always try to make it better and better.
And Zain, if you'd like to wrap up this question, then we can wrap up and come to closing statements. I apologise to anyone who didn't get to get their question answered, but I'm sure you can speak to them afterwards.
So I agree with all the candidates here about having a transparent SU. So when it comes to the red bar, so Ahmed has raised a point that's not owned by the Students' Union, it's owned by the university. for whatever reason, I don't know because I'm not in this position, but for whatever reason, they're not laying out or making the SEO aware about what's happening inside. They'll have their own reason. I don't know. So I'm just saying from that perspective that I want to share what we're working on. I want to share with the students what we're doing. So we want to, from my own perspective, I want to be as transparent as possible. I don't want to keep anything secret because the SU is for the students, not for ourselves. The influence comes from the students, not from our role titles. So this is the most important part on that factor.
Okay, thank you for that. And now we will come to closing statements, and we'll go in reverse order to what we did earlier. So, Ahmed, could you please take the podium? Short speech, about 2 minutes or so.
First, I would like to thank everyone for coming today and making the time. But also, I would like to say that this year has proven who can achieve their promises. We have made great wins this year. One of these wins is a big teamwork about reducing the graduation cost and the price for tickets from £35 you have to pay per ticket to only £15. This was a big team effort happened for the first time. We have saved a lot of money for a lot of our students who will be graduating this year. Not only for this year, but students will be graduating in the future years as well. But also, we haven't taken anything from the experience of their graduation. We'll be in the same place, the same venue, the same experience with less cost. So we know exactly how to achieve. We're working as a team this year to make sure that we can achieve more things, are working on more projects regarding the cost of the course and how we can save money for students. We want to put more money back in your pocket, and also we want to make sure that the representation is on top level. The experience we have gained this year qualifies us to achieve more next year, not to spend the first 3 or 6 months learning things, then by the end of the first term say, oh, we haven't done this. We'll be starting from the first day of our elections. So please vote for me and make sure that you put the trust in the right candidate. Thank you.
And then could we have Zain to the platform, please?
So now we've come to the final part of our President's Hustings, and I hope through the things I've said and through the speech I made in the beginning is convinced some of you at least. So I'm an effective leader. I've proven that through the society work I've done. I'm an effective team worker. I've proven that through the work I've done in society. I'm a proven person of reliability. I trust people and people put their trust in me. I get people's views and points across. I'm not someone who's here to play around. I'm not here to someone who's going to waste time and waste other people's time. We want to make something permanent in uni. We want to leave our stamp on this university because other people are going to come and they can say we were the people who were behind this. So this is why you should vote for me, because we are the effective change. We need alternation. We need difference. We need progression. We need diversity, and we need unity. Although I said my slogan backwards, still means the same thing. So that's why you should vote for me. Please look at the manifestos for all of us and make an ideal choice that's based on your interests, and just make the right choice and a critical choice. It's all about criticizing. We're here to be criticized. So this is your opportunity to do that, and you can do that by voting for the right person. Thank you.
Could Ned take the podium, please?
Okay, first of all, I'd just like to let you know that I'll take a quick break after this, but then I will be sticking around. If you have any questions, please do feel free to ask them. I'm happy to chat. I'd like to thank the SU for hosting us tonight, to James and Dario for asking the questions, and to everyone in the audience for sticking with us, even though it's run quite late today. So I hope I've convinced you today that transparency is important, not just for its own sake, but for what it can do to bring students into our union as well. And I also hope I've convinced you that I've got the right experience to implement my manifesto. And tonight I'd like you to ask yourselves a few questions. I'd like you to ask, what does the SU do for you, and what do you know it does for you? And do you feel a part of the SU, or do you feel it might be you and the SU? And what do you think of when you think of our union? Do you think of something that fights for you, that campaigns for you, that works for you every day? Or do you think it's maybe something that's not quite lived up to its potential? And if the answer is that maybe it hasn't, then maybe it's time for change, and maybe it's time for fresh ideas. And I hope I've convinced you tonight that I have those ideas, and that I have the experience and the drive and the ambition to implement them. Thank you for listening, and I hope I've got your vote.
And finally, finishing off the hustings, can Sam Marshall-Evans come to the podium?
So, I hope you've enjoyed this evening. I have. What to say, really? Great selection of candidates. I'm proud to be counted among them. What I would say, though, is since I've come to this university, I've tried my best to do the best I can to make your lives better, whether that's getting involved in DPC, in student campaigns, in external campaigns that directly affect students. I've done my level best to make sure that I am representing you at every opportunity. What I would say is, if you want somebody who is experienced, committed, capable, responsible, and will really fight tooth and nail for every last idea that you bring to me, vote for me. Thank you.
And that wraps up the hustings, everyone. So I'd like to, of course, thank our candidates once again for their invaluable contribution. I would also like to thank my absolute babes at the back over there. Without them, it would not be possible. And, of course, a special mention to my main man, Daria, who will be taking over the presidency from me next year, debating. He will be a most fantastic president. And, of course, Andy Eagleton, he put a lot of effort into this, so I'm going to do a little bit plugging in my society now. We've done some great things. Join us. We're brilliant. Thank you.